with the more important question of the political federation of East Africa and possible other federations in other parts of Africa. This was a goal pursued by our ancestors, starting with the Pan-Africanist pioneers among the black people in the United States of America. These were W.B. Du Bois, George Padmore, Marcus Garvey, Sylvester Williams, and others. By the mid-1900s, new actors had come on the scene in the persons of Jomo Kenyatta, Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, Sekou Toure of Guinea, Modibo Keita, and others. But if you go back, you will find that by 1900, the whole of Africa had shamefully been colonized because our egocentric and incompetent kings had failed to defend us, and instead we are busy fighting fratricide wars among us. At that time, when we were colonized, the slogan for survival was, in quotes, Uhuru na Umoja, independence and unity. That's what we were saying. We unite, we fight for freedom, independence, and then after, we unite to get strength. That was the slogan. Starting with 1912, the Africans in South Africa took the initiative and started a new anti-colonial force, the African National Congress of South Africa. And you should know that even Mahatma Gandhi of India was also in India, in South Africa at this time, so he was part of this effort. This marked the beginning of the new African resistance, led by more informed people. Our resistance was assisted by two factors that came on the scene during that century. These were, number one, the emergence of the socialist camps of nations in the form of the Soviet Union in 1917, China in 1949, and others. These huge countries were taken over by people who did not believe in colonialism. These were the communists. So this was a new factor. As we were fighting for our freedom, this new factor came on the scene. And the second factor were the fratricidal wars, fratricidal inter-imperialist wars of 1914 to 1918 and 1939 to 1945 among the imperialists. The imperialists were now fighting over us. Who will control which one? You know, those imperialists had divided us up, shared us like a cake because of our incompetent kings here. Came, sat in Berlin, this is for you, this is for you, this is for you. Then there was a new country called Germany, which had become united a short while before that. They wanted to start a war. So you are cheating us. We also want a share with the colonies. Then they said, please don't start a war, Bismarck, please. Let's give you some of the properties. You take Tanganyika, Rwanda, Burundi, Namibia, Cameroon, and so on. But by the end of the century, Germany was saying, you have cheated me. I also need more slaves. I need more colonies. That's how their wars started, fighting over us. These two factors, on the one hand, meant that the worldwide anti-colonial movement, including the African anti-colonial movement, could receive solidarity from those socialist countries. And on the other hand, the imperialist countries had weakened themselves in the process of their greed for world domination. So as they were fighting over us, fortunately they weakened themselves, which was good for us. The worldwide anti-colonial movement, on account of these three factors, the three factors are our resistance, number one, number two, the emergence of the socialist countries which were supporting us, and number three, the mutual weakening of the imperialists among themselves. The worldwide anti-colonial movement, on account of these three factors, started scoring strategic victories with the independence of India in 1947, Indonesia in 1945, the defeat of the Kuomintang traitors in China, 1949, etc. Amazingly, the imperialists tried in many cases to maintain colonial control even after these catastrophes. The French tried to recognize Indochina, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos until the Vietnamese defeated them at Dien Bien Phu in 1954. The French were defeated in Algeria. The British faced the Mau Mau armed resistance in Kenya and mass resistance throughout the whole of Africa. Here in Uganda, Ignatius Kangabe Musazi led the mass resistance movement. On account of these resistance efforts, by 1963, 36 African countries had achieved independence, uhuru, so we had achieved uhuru. It is these countries that founded the Organization of African Unity at Addis Ababa. There was, however, another almost 20 African countries that were still under colonial rule. The African Summit gave an ultimatum to the imperialists to give independence to the whole of Africa peacefully, or they would be ejected by force. People don't know this history. They just run around, but if you don't know this, you can make a lot of mistakes. So the OAU meeting in 1963 gave an ultimatum to the imperialists, said, get out of the whole of Africa peacefully, or we shall throw you out by force. The imperialists thought it was a mere hot air. They never paid heed. However, the Africans were serious and able to defeat the imperialists by force. Indeed, by 1974, Samora Machel had defeated the Portuguese army of 70,000 in Mozambique. Amílcar Cabral and his colleagues had defeated the Portuguese army in Guinea-Bissau. Agostinho Neto had defeated the Portuguese army in Angola. By 1980, Robert Mugabe and Zanla, their army, had defeated Ian Smith in Zimbabwe. 1990, Namibia got independence, and in 1994, the African majority defeated the white racists in South Africa. 5 centuries of Africa's shame of the slave trade and colonialism should have ended then. This is where we need to really examine ourselves, because we achieved victory both by peaceful method and by war. So what happened? What happened? When you hear people on the radio talking, just talk, empty talk. what happened? Why did we people? This is not fiction. It is history. We defeated the imperialists by peaceful means, but also by war. So what happened? Exactly what happened? 5 centuries of Africa's shame, of the slave trade and colonialism, should have ended then. We had achieved independence, uhuru in the whole of Africa. The question was, where was umoja? Because you remember the slogan was uhuru na umoja. Now by 1994, the whole of Africa had achieved uhuru. So what happened to the umoja? In the meantime, the question was, where was umoja, unity? In the meantime, we who were participants in much of this time had to diagnose the problem.